Pro-Policy Summit, Live Updates and Highlights. Coming up today, Mnuchin, Ross and the CEOs of Virgin Galactic, Exelon and Box. The first Politico Pro Summit is underway today with newsmakers including Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross and the CEOs of Virgin Galactic, Exelon and Box. The full lineup of speakers is here and the agenda is here. We'll be bringing you the highlights of the 17 panels and news that's made at the summit throughout the day. So bookmark this page and come back to find out what's going on. You can also join the conversation on Twitter with the hashtag #ProSummit. What to watch? The summit kicks off with the issue that never dies: what will Congress do about healthcare? That's especially timely this week, with Senate Democrats and Republicans pulled between three different efforts, whether to tear down Obamacare, stabilize it or replace it with Medicare for all. What to watch on the healthcare panel at the first plenary session: how Marilyn Tavenner, the head of America's health insurance plans and the nation's top health insurance lobbyist, addresses the bipartisan Senate effort to patch Obamacare's troubled insurance markets, and if Representative Frank Pallone, DNJ, thinks any legislation to repair the ACA has a chance in the House. Meanwhile, Debbie Troy, a conservative policy analyst and former top HHS official, and ex-Kentucky Governor Steve Beshear may have on-the-ground insights into Republican efforts to roll back the health law. The commercial space realm is an emerging, and largely unregulated, policy area that the second plenary will explore. Key questions policymakers are wrestling with include how much the government should regulate space and how traditional defense contractors can work with entrepreneurial commercial companies to make the space program stronger through more competition. What to watch on the space panel: what Representative John Culberson, a top appropriator for space matters, and George Whitesides, the CEO of Virgin Galactic, say about where there can be greater cooperation between traditional contractors and new companies, what the government can do to facilitate commercial access to space and what their hopes are for the administration's stated focus on space. House Intelligence Committee Ranking Member Adam Schiff, the leader of the lower chamber's high-profile investigation into Russia's meddling during last year's election, sits down for the third plenary amid escalating concerns about the role Facebook's platform played in helping to undermine the presidential race. The social media giant recently revealed that Russian fronts purchased geographically targeted ads during the campaign, and it was later reported that Russian operatives used Facebook pages to promote anti-immigrant and anti-Muslim rallies in the U.S. What to watch on the cybersecurity panel: Schiff's rundown about whether the committee wants to bring Facebook officials to Capitol Hill for a briefing and what questions he thinks the Silicon Valley stalwart needs to answer. And listen to CrowdStrike co-founder Dmitry Alperovich, who had a front-row seat to last year's election hacks after his firm was called in to eradicate the alleged Russian hackers from the Democratic National Committee's networks, detail what those groups are up to now and what they might try to do in the 2018 election. FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb is on the hook to talk about how his regulatory philosophy, at an agency whose primary purpose is to regulate the safety of food, drugs, cosmetics and tobacco, fits in with the broader Trump administration deregulatory agenda. What to watch on the FDA panel: Gottlieb will be pressed on what areas of regulation he thinks the FDA can back down on or revise and what regulations need to stay or be added to protect the public health. How does he determine when the government should intervene and when it needs to back off? Expect him to face questions on hot topics like menu labeling and regulation of e-cigarettes, as well as drug pricing and the obesity and opioid epidemics. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross's interview with Politico co-founder John Harris comes as the administration is working through a renegotiation of NAFTA, which it's hoping to finish by the end of the year. Trump has recently revived threats to withdraw from the deal if Canada and Mexico refuse to agree to the changes he wants, something Ross has backed him up on even as most members of the Republican Party and broad swaths of U.S. industry warned that doing so would bring more harm than good. What to watch in the Ross interview: in addition to NAFTA, Ross' department is weighing whether to limit imports of steel and aluminum for national security reasons. The timing of those reports, as well as what they will say, remains unclear. House Ways and Means Chairman Kevin Brady hopes to shepherd a comprehensive overhaul of the tax code through his committee and the House of Representatives. Ranking Member Richard Neal has told Republicans he'd like to work together on tax reform, in the spirit of the bipartisan tax reform of 1986, but that current Republican proposals don't encourage him or his fellow Democrats. Republicans remain eager for details about a plan, but the chairman, congressional leadership and the White House remain tight-lipped for fear that outside interest groups could tee off on any items that would end or alter deductions they favor. What to watch for on the tax panel. On Wednesday, Brady promised more details for a unified framework between the House, Senate, and White House would be released the week of September 25. Brady may reveal more of the direction that Republicans plan to go on tax reform, while Neal may signal some potential common ground between the parties on taxes. Foxconn is building a multi-billion-dollar plant in Wisconsin. Apple is slated to open a data center in Iowa. And Amazon insists any city could be home to its second headquarters. As big tech pushes deeper into the American heartland, at a time when Trump wants to add jobs there, it begs the question of how state and local governments should prepare for their arrival. What to watch for on the Jobs in Small-Town America plenary. Rise of the Rest advocate Steve Case will join California Democratic Representative O'Connor, both of whom can be expected to tout Middle America as fertile ground for Silicon Valley-style entrepreneurship. Meanwhile, Dayton, Ohio Mayor Nan Whaley, and Chauncey Lennon, the head of workforce initiatives for J.P. Morgan Chase's global philanthropy, can address the challenges of bracing people for the changes that would bring. Driverless cars are all but commonplace to see in the Silicon Valley, but before they become available to the public, there are plenty of concerns policymakers will need to address. Among those are safety guidance from the Transportation Department, whether driverless trucks will hurt jobs in the future, and what kinds of opportunities self-driving cars will provide to both the private and public sectors. What to watch for the interview with self-driving car company Waymo's CEO John Krafcik. What's the latest from the Skunk Works on the technology behind the cars, and how might the growing ubiquity of autonomous vehicles change our society, economy and public policy? Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin is in the middle of tax reform negotiations, and there's plenty of interest in details he could divulge. Questions continue to swirl around how low Trump administration officials like him and congressional Republicans can drive down tax rates, among other changes they're considering. What to watch for from Mnuchin. Reducing tax rates is expensive, as are other ideas in play, like letting businesses immediately write off the cost of their new investments. That means potential trade-offs, including getting rid of the deduction businesses get for interest on their loans, will prove increasingly contentious as their defenders fight to keep them on the books. Look for Mnuchin to illuminate how the administration plans to navigate this process.